Welcome back to my channel, Valuable Rare Coins. If you love discovering hidden treasures in your pocket change, you're in the right place. First, we'll uncover some of the most valuable and rare US coins that could be worth a fortune. Let's dive in. We're talking about the 1981 D. Washington quarter. At first glance, it's just another silver-colored coin with George Washington's profile on one side and a bald eagle on the other. It's the coin we've all grown up with. But beneath the surface, some of these quarters, especially those struck at the Denver Mint, carry secrets that only a trained eye or a bit of luck can uncover. Let's set the scene. The year was 1981. Ronald Reagan had just taken office as president, MTV was about to change music forever, and arcade games were the hottest thing around. Meanwhile, at the US Mint in Denver, coin presses were running full speed. Tens of millions of Washington quarters were being produced to meet the demands of everyday commerce. The 1981 D quarter was part of this mass production. Millions of coins struck and released into circulation. For the vast majority of them, their fate was simple. They'd live fast and wear down quickly in circulation. But every now and then, something different happened. Sometimes a coin escapes that fate. Maybe it was never spent, maybe it was stashed in a collector's folder, or maybe, just maybe, it was struck in such a precise and flawless way that it became a standout, and that's where things get interesting when it comes to modern coins. Especially those from the 80s, condition is everything. A worn 1981 D quarter? Still worth 25 cents. But a 1981 D quarter in mint state, with perfect surfaces, strong luster, and razor-sharp detail? That's a whole different story. Collectors love coins that have been well preserved. And the higher the grade, especially if certified by grading services like PCGS or NGC, the more valuable the coin becomes. Grades above MS65 are where the value starts to climb steeply, and if your coin reaches MS67 or higher, now you're entering rare territory. But condition isn't the only thing that sets certain 1981 D quarters apart. Another exciting aspect? Minting errors. During the coin production process, mistakes happen. And when they do, they can lead to valuable rarities. A quarter struck on a nickel planchet, or one struck off-center, or one with a double die, all of these can turn a regular coin into a collector's jackpot. Then there's eye appeal. A coin with perfect coloring, a stunning strike, and clean, smooth surfaces catches attention at first glance. Combine that with scarcity, since not many 1981 D quarters survived in top condition, and you've got a coin that's suddenly a hot item in the collecting world. So, what exactly makes the 1981 D quarter so special? It's a combination of things. First, the Denver Mint was known for producing coins quickly, which sometimes meant less attention to strike quality. That's why finding one in perfect condition is difficult. Second, there just aren't many high-grade examples that have survived, which increases demand. And third, some of these coins feature rare and dramatic errors that only show up once in a while. Now imagine having one of those rare examples. A coin with a brilliant, untouched surface. A coin struck with such force and clarity that every detail on George Washington's face and the eagle's feathers looks sculpted. Maybe it even features a mint error so rare that few have ever seen one in person. So, how much could a 1981 D quarter like that be worth? Well, most people would assume it's just worth 25 cents. Maybe a couple of bucks if you're lucky. But then comes the twist. Because one remarkable example of this coin, graded at the top of its class, preserved like new, and featuring eye-catching detail, was sold for a staggering $79,000. Yes, you heard that right. $79,000. For a quarter. It's one of those stories that seems too good to be true until you realize that it's real, and it could happen to anyone. That's the thrill of coin collecting. You never know what might be sitting right under your nose or in your pocket. So, the next time you get change back at the store, take a second look. That plain-looking 1981 D quarter might be much more than it appears. It could be a hidden gem, waiting to be discovered. Second rare coin, we're diving deep into the story of the 1967 Washington quarter dollar coin, one of the most fascinating and surprising pieces in U.S. coinage history. Now, you might be thinking, a quarter from 1967? What's so special about that? After all, it's not ancient. It's not made of silver. And let's be honest, it doesn't exactly scream treasure. But that's the fun of this journey. Because hidden within this ordinary-looking coin is a twist that has left collectors speechless and, in at least one case, incredibly wealthy. Let's go back in time for a moment. The year was 1967. The Beatles were at their peak. Color TVs were finally making their way into homes. And the U.S. Mint was still adjusting to a massive change in the coin world, one that had started just a couple of years earlier. You see, before 1965, quarters were made of 90% silver. But due to rising silver prices and a nationwide coin shortage, the U.S. Mint made a big shift. In 1965, they removed silver from quarters entirely and started making them out of a copper-nickel-clad composition. The silver era was over. By 1967, the new clad quarters were being produced by the millions without mint marks to discourage hoarding. Yes, you heard that right. From 1965 to 1967, no U.S. quarters had mint marks, no D for Denver, no S for San Francisco, and no P for Philadelphia. Just the date and the design. The idea was to keep the public from believing certain coins were rarer than others. The 1967 Washington quarter features the familiar profile of George Washington on the obverse, with Liberty above, the motto, "In God We Trust," to the left, and the date at the bottom. The reverse shows the proud American eagle perched on a bundle of arrows, wings spread wide. Simple, bold, iconic, but what makes the 1967 quarter truly fascinating is what lies beyond the surface, hidden in plain sight among hundreds of millions of coins. Let's start with condition. Most 1967 quarters were used and abused in circulation. Think vending machines, toll booths, payphones, coins that lived hard lives. That's why finding one in pristine, uncirculated condition is such a big deal. These coins, when stored properly and never handled, can shine like the day they were struck. Collectors look for quarters with strong strikes, no scratches, no dulling, and that original mint luster. When a 1967 quarter reaches the highest levels of grading, think MS-67 or MS-68, that's when the coin starts to stand out. Not because it's ancient, not because it's rare by mintage, but because of its condition. Absolute perfection from a year most people have forgotten, and then come the errors. This is where things get exciting. Every now and then, the mint makes a mistake. A blank planchet gets struck twice. A quarter is accidentally made from the wrong metal, or maybe it's struck slightly off-center or missing part of its design due to a misaligned die. These errors are accidental masterpieces, unique, unrepeatable, and extremely valuable. In fact, some 1967 quarters have been found with dramatic double die obverse, die breaks, and even struck on planchets meant for other denominations. These kinds of errors are like lightning strikes. Incredibly rare and impossible to recreate, and here's the thing, because there were no mint marks that year and so many were made, most people overlook 1967 quarters completely. But among the hundreds of millions produced, a few are truly exceptional. A few survived without wear. A few carry rare minting errors. A few are, quite simply, worth a second look. Now picture this. Someone finds one of these rare 1967 quarters tucked away in a coin collection or inherited from a grandparent. It gets sent in for grading. It comes back with a nearly perfect score. Or maybe it's a coin with a known mint error so rare it's one of a kind. The coin gets listed at a major auction, and serious collectors from around the world line up to bid. What happens next? Well, that's the twist you've been waiting for. 1967 Washington quarter, flawless in its preservation, dazzling in its strike, and carrying just the right mix of rarity and condition, sold for an unbelievable $119,000. That's right. A coin worth 25 cents on paper. But with the right qualities, it became a five-figure treasure. So, what's the takeaway here? Never overlook the ordinary, especially when it comes to coins. Because every now and then, one of those ordinary pieces turns out to be something truly extraordinary. Third expensive coin, we're zooming in on a coin that most of us have probably seen dozens of times without even thinking twice. It's the 1986 Washington quarter, minted in Philadelphia, identified by the small p just above the date. Seems pretty normal, right? But the truth is, some of these coins aren't just worth 25 cents. They're worth much, much more. And by the end of this video, you're going to see just how high the value can go for a very special version of this everyday coin. So grab your magnifying glass and your curiosity, because this is one coin story you won't want to miss. Let's start by rolling the clock back to 1986. The year brought us Top Gun at the box office, the debut of Pixar's very first animation, and the Space Shuttle Challenger tragedy. America was in the middle of cultural change, and the U.S. Mint was continuing to produce the coins that fueled everyday life. Among them was the humble Washington quarter. Now, the Washington quarter had been a fixture in American pockets since 1932, but by 1986, it had undergone some changes not in design, but in the materials used. Gone were the days of silver. Instead, quarters were made from a clad composition of copper and nickel. Functional, practical, and produced by the millions. Specifically, the Philadelphia Mint struck hundreds of millions of quarters in 1986. These coins were used in everything from arcade machines and toll booths to grocery stores and payphones. Most were circulated into oblivion. They got scratched, worn down, lost, and forgotten. But a small number? They managed to survive in astonishingly good condition, and here's where things get exciting. Collectors know that what sets a valuable coin apart is not just the year or the mint, but the quality of the strike, the condition, and the rarity of minting errors. That's exactly what makes some 1986 P quarters incredibly desirable in today's market. Let's break it down. First, condition matters a lot. Coins that have never been used, never touched by human hands, and preserved since the day they left the mint are known as mint state coins. These coins are carefully graded by professionals using a scale from 1 to 70. A grade above MS65 means the coin is in excellent condition, very few scratches, brilliant luster, and all details visible. A grade of MS67 or higher. That's when things start to get rare. Really rare. But there's another layer, something collectors dream of: mint errors. These are freak accidents that occur during the minting process. A coin might be struck off-center, have a doubled image, be missing parts of its design, or even be struck on the wrong kind of metal. These errors are one of a kind, and when they show up on a coin like the 1986 P quarter, they can send collectors into a frenzy. Now imagine combining those two factors, a perfectly preserved 1986 P quarter and a striking mint error. That coin becomes not just a curiosity, it becomes a centerpiece, a showstopper, the kind of coin that goes straight into the auction spotlight. And what makes this even more interesting? Unlike coins from the early 20th century, the 1986 P quarter isn't ancient. It's modern. It's recent enough that some of you watching this right now could realistically have one in your possession. In a coin jar, an old wallet, or a collection handed down by a relative. That's what makes it so thrilling. The treasure isn't buried. It's hiding in plain sight. So here's the big question. What's the most a coin like this has ever been sold for? Well, the answer might blow you away, because one exceptional 1986 P Washington quarter, graded as nearly flawless, preserved in remarkable mint state condition, and featuring an ultra-rare minting anomaly, was once sold to a private collector for an unbelievable $56,000. Yes, that's right. A 25-cent coin. A coin that most people overlook every single day. Sold for $56,000, and that's the magic of coin collecting. It's not just about the age of the coin, it's about the story it tells, the journey it survived, and the rarity of its condition or creation. And sometimes, just sometimes, it's about discovering that what you thought was ordinary is actually something extraordinary. So the next time you get a handful of change back, don't toss it aside. Look closely. That dull, forgotten quarter might just be your key to something remarkable. Especially, we're talking about the 1983 D. Washington quarter, a coin millions of Americans have seen, spent, or tossed aside without a second thought. But what if I told you that hidden among those common quarters from 1983, a small number of them are now commanding jaw-dropping prices in the collector world? Yep, this isn't just a quarter. It's a mystery, a survival story, and potentially a hidden gem. So stay with me, because this one is full of surprises. Let's rewind the clock to the early 1980s. The US economy was recovering from a deep recession, and inflation had started to cool off. Technology was evolving, music was changing, and American pockets were filled with coins, just like the 1983 D quarter. Minted in Denver, this coin featured the classic design we all know and love, George Washington's stern profile on the front, and the proud eagle with outstretched wings on the back. But 1983 wasn't just any year in coin history. It was actually a bit of a turning point for coin collectors. You see, during that era, the US Mint did not release uncirculated mint sets in 1982 or 1983, meaning collectors had very limited access to pristine, uncirculated coins from those years. That made it significantly harder to find high-grade examples of coins like the 1983 D quarter. Most of them went straight into circulation. They were tossed in change drawers, jammed into payphones, spent at gas stations, and forgotten. Now here's where it gets interesting. Because of that mass circulation and the lack of government-issued mint sets, most 1983 D quarters you'll come across today are scratched, worn down, and beat up from years of use. Finding one in excellent condition, especially one that's never been circulated, is incredibly rare, and rarity in top condition is just the beginning. Collectors also search for coins with specific characteristics: clean surfaces, sharp details, and something called a strong strike. That's when the image and lettering on the coin are perfectly pressed and fully detailed. Then there's something called the full strike eagle, meaning the feathers and other small details on the reverse are completely visible and crisp. On a 1983 D quarter, that level of detail is uncommon, especially due to how many were quickly minted and pushed into everyday use. And then, of course, we have the real wild cards: minting errors. Mistakes during the coin production process can turn an ordinary quarter into an extraordinary rarity. We're talking about coins that were double-struck, struck off-center, or even made on the wrong metal planchet. These mint errors are incredibly collectible, and when combined with a high grade and sharp detail, their value can skyrocket. Now imagine finding a 1983 D quarter that checks all those boxes. One that's not just clean, but flawless. Not just regular, but struck with precision. Maybe even one with a known mint error. That's the kind of coin that collectors dream about. That's the kind of coin that breaks auction records. You might be wondering, could I really find one of these? And the answer is yes. That's what makes it so exciting. These coins are out there, hiding in plain sight. Most people have no idea what they're looking at. They assume it's just another quarter. But to a trained eye or a lucky collector, it could be something much more. So what's the big reveal? How much could a seemingly ordinary 1983 D Washington quarter actually be worth if it's in mint state condition, with a strong strike, and possibly even a rare mint error? Well, buckle up, because one such coin, professionally graded and authenticated, once sold for an astonishing $72,000. That's right, $72,000. For a coin worth 25 cents on paper, and that's the magic of coin collecting. It's not about how old a coin is, it's about how rare, how perfect, how unique it is. So, if you've got an old jar of change lying around, it's time to start digging. The next great discovery might be sitting quietly in your own home, waiting to tell its story. Last unique coin, we're about to uncover a rare gem from the world of US coins. The year was 1996, and it was an important time in the history of US currency. The 1990s were marked by significant advancements in technology, a booming economy, and the end of the Cold War. In the world of coins, the US Mint had already switched from using silver in many of their coins to clad compositions, copper and nickel. The 1996 P. Washington quarter, which was minted in Philadelphia, became part of the ongoing evolution of American coinage. But here's the twist. Although the 1996 P. Washington quarter was produced in large numbers, there are certain examples of this coin that stand out in a major way. They're not just your run-of-the-mill quarters. These coins, when found in pristine condition or with unique characteristics, can command incredible value on the market. So what makes the 1996 P. Washington quarter so special? Well, there are a couple of key factors that could dramatically increase its worth. First, let's talk about condition. As we all know, most quarters get used in circulation. They end up in wallets, dropped on the ground, and spent in vending machines or at stores. Over time, the coin's details get worn down. However, when a quarter is kept in pristine condition, free of scratches, dings, or discoloration, it becomes far more valuable to collectors. A coin that has been properly stored and that retains its original shine and detail is worth much more than a quarter that's been circulating for decades, and that's where things get exciting for the 1996 P. Washington quarter. When graded at a high level, say MS 67 or above, the coin takes on a whole new value. A near-perfect example where the details are sharp and the surfaces remain almost flawless is a coin that collectors seek out and are willing to pay top dollar for. Now, it's not just about pristine condition. There's also the possibility of minting errors, which can make a coin even more desirable. Minting errors happen when there's an issue during the coin-making process. Maybe the coin was struck off-center, or there was a die break, or perhaps it was struck multiple times, leaving a double image. These types of errors are highly prized by collectors because they are one of a kind. If you happen to come across a 1996 P. Washington quarter with a minting flaw, it could drastically increase the coin's value. A coin that has both high-grade and rare minting errors is essentially a collector's dream. It's the kind of coin that can go for far more than its face value. So, if you're lucky enough to find a 1996 P quarter in uncirculated condition or with a minting error, you could be holding onto something much more valuable than you think. But you might be wondering, how much could this coin possibly be worth? After all, it's just a quarter from 1996, right? Well, hold on to your seat, because the answer may surprise you. One highly graded, uncirculated 1996 P. Washington quarter with a unique feature once sold for a staggering $40,000. Yes, you read that correctly, $40,000 for a single quarter. Now, that's the kind of discovery that makes every coin collector's heart skip a beat. The next time you dig through your change jar or find an old coin in your drawer, remember that sometimes the most ordinary-looking coins can turn out to be incredibly valuable. Whether it's in flawless condition or has a minting error, the 1996 P. Washington quarter is a perfect example of how a seemingly simple coin can hold great value. Thanks for joining me on this treasure hunt. If you enjoyed this video and want to learn more about rare and valuable coins, make sure to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you never miss a new discovery. Who knows, your next coin could be worth thousands of dollars. Until next time, happy collecting!